Chatty Patty Palo Talk Show. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey there.
It's the Chatty Patty Palo Talk Show.
We will talk about the things that mean so much to you, like going to a restaurant or hanging at the zoo. Clothes and sports and funny news, crafts and travel too. Nothing ever scripted, so expect the unexpected.
Hello, hello,
Buenos dias.
hello.
Aloha.
It's the Chatty Patty Palo Talk Show. It's the Chatty Patty Palo Talk Show. It's the Chatty Patty Palo Talk Show.
Hi, welcome to our show. It's Monday, October 22nd, episode 69. I'm Chatty Patty, and this is Paula Walla. Our special guest today is August Gitschlag from Hamtramck, the city clerk.
How are you guys?
Welcome, August.
Thank you for bringing me on episode 69.
I know,
Was that intended?
excellent. No,
Who's clerking right now?
Right now, my assistant Abe is holding down the fort for
Okay,
the
so
next couple hours.
Someone
yes.
needs official clerk business. They'll see Abe.
Abe
Okay.
can handle it. Yep.
Got that,
so
Abe?
we can call you Augie, right?
Augie or August, I'll answer to both.
My
All right.
birthday's in August. Is your birthday in
I
August?
get that a lot. No, my
What?
birthday is December 21st for anyone who wants to send gifts. City Hall is
yeah.
3401 Eveline, Hamtramck, Michigan.
All right, so what is the job of city clerk? What do you do there?
Officially,
Yeah.
the city clerk.
What's a typical day for you in Hamtramck?
Well,
Dog license?
well, that's part of it, yes. But there's no typical day.
Every day is
that's
different.
instead of a rim shot, we get a little din-din-din-din every time there's a good punchline.
Yeah.
All right. Basically, the city clerk is in charge of the elections, in charge of all the business licensing, which kind of gives me a little heads up on all the things that are going on in town. And I handle the city council minutes, the city council meetings. I have some parliamentarian duties. I'm the keeper of all the contracts, keeper of all the records. So I do a lot of research for the city.
Oh.
All the contracts from historically are all in my office. I swear in all the boards and commissions, keep track of who's on all of those. I do dog licenses. That's part of it. Yes. There is
Excellent.
no typical day. Like you get to work today, and there's a dozen different little things you have to do. Especially in election season, we have 15 days till the midterm elections, and all of us clerks, Oakland County especially, got hit a little bit harder with this. But we all got kind of caught with our pants down back in August. The turnout was incredibly high compared to
August,
what we had.
pants down?
Yes. Okay. I see where we're going here. All right.
All right, so I want
Episode
said it.
This is the episode 69 factor, isn't it? Okay.
let's talk about the population because there's such a diverse group of people from other countries, right?
It always has
And
been.
Hamtramck.
It always has been.
You know, originally, the word Hamtramck is Polish, right?
It's French.
French.
Colonel Jean
Really?
Francois Hamtramck was a Revolutionary War
Wow.
colonel, and he was technically founded the city, the land. It all went all the way. Hamtramck went all the way to the Detroit River. All of what is Grosse Pointe and down down Joseph Campo down the riverfront. That was all Hamtramck Township.
They got ripped off.
Yeah, they did. Well, it just
Oh, man.
when these were unincorporated, townships back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and Detroit started to grow. And well, we all know how the iron ore came down the river and the economics of building train cars and stoves in Michigan. Then the bicycle industry was big in Detroit, and that led to the car industry. So Hamtramck was actually made up of German farmers and saloon keepers. It was what Hamtramck was when it was incorporated. And then in 1920 is when was it 19? Geez, I got the own year wrong. I wasn't born and raised there, but it's 1920 something where it became officially a city. But there was all this land grab with Detroit. They kept expanding. And Hamtramck finally incorporated around the Dodge main factory, the same way Highland Park incorporated around the Ford factory. Because kind of the Dodge wanted to get out of the Detroit area, and Ford wanted to get out of the Detroit area. We think of Hamtramck and
Far away. What
so far from the Detroit area.
Yeah, I know.
But that was the boondocks compared to downtown Detroit, and where people lived. It was it was farmers and saloons. And we found an old Supreme Court case from the 1890 something, the state Supreme Court, where the city was buying a chunk of land off Joseph Campo. And the guy said, it's worth, $5,000. Like, no, it's only worth a couple $100s. And the Supreme Court decision was, this will never be viable commercial real estate, so there's no reason you should be compensated at that rate. And that's downtown Hamtramck now.
So it wasn't swampland, it was farmland.
No, it was farmland. Mhm.
Yeah. Huh. Well, what is how does everybody get along today with all the people from Bangladesh and the Polish natives?
There's always going to be community cliques. There always was in the Polish community, and then later on the other Eastern European nationalities came into town. When you're living on top of each other, as soon as you get enough money to not have to live on top of another family, you're going to move. So it's going to have that transient element to it always. That's just how the town is built. And there's a lot of space in Detroit and Michigan, so you can always move out. There's always another spot to go to, as long as you have a car to get there. But the groups get along. I mean, the Yemeni and the Bengali and the fastest growing group, the hipsters, the hipster artists, and the people that can't afford to live down in Quickenville anymore, down in Midtown, they're all moving to Hamtramck. We do have doctors and artists and musicians and teachers and professors that all live there, as well as great Bengali community, a very active Yemeni community that's growing, a Polish community and a Ukrainian community that are coming back. As the kids are coming back to Hamtramck as well, and you get your tiffs on in political circles, but it's in the end everyone wants the same thing. You all want clean water. You all want decent schools. You all want your potholes filled. You all want
snowplow.
Yeah. You want your snow cleaned up. You want basically you want your potholes filled. We can go right back to that one again.
Fill them with snow.
You want your garbage picked up, and there are debates over who should do it, and that happens in any community, and it doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. So those debates over the process for getting the same things done is not uncommon anywhere, and there's no ethnic rifts really at all that I've ever seen in the 5 years I've been the clerk there.
Well, I love Hamtramck because there's a lot of live music.
More so now than there has been in the last 10 years.
I think that's
Yeah.
it always has.
Just when you were raising your kids and you weren't going there, and now it's back.
I know. Lilies and Paychecks. I mean, I used to play
That's
Paychecks.
now the Sanctuary, and it's open, and there's live music 3-4 nights a week.
Yes.
At Sanctuary.
And
beautifully redone.
Lilies is the Painted Lady?
Painted Lady,
And
yes.
are they still having music in there?
They do have the occasional show. They're known as a world-class bowling bar. They have
Really?
amazing
Ooh.
bourbon in that place. Andy Dow, the owner of Painted Lady Travels.
Do I know Andy?
I don't think you know Andy.
Okay.
I think we need to go there.
He feather bowls with me, but he doesn't foal.
Okay,
He's
thank
my
you.
other obscure sport.
Yeah.
Andy and his wife Stacy. So they own Painted Lady, and he comes back from Kentucky with all kinds of
Wow.
bourbons and single barrels. When your house bourbon is Buffalo Trace, you're taking it seriously
Yeah.
as a bourbon bar.
Sounds like we
Yeah.
better go there.
I think so. Road trip.
And Hamtramck is home of the Foaling Warehouse, which I know Patty loves.
Right.
a
So,
lot.
how excited were you when you heard that this foaling project was coming to Hamtramck?
Well, the first thing was what? And then Chris Hutt came to my office because that's where you license your businesses, right? And he's like, yeah, so I'm Chris Hutt. I'm going to open up this Foaling Warehouse thing. And the first thing was, great, we can't stand the guy who's in that space now. So it's going to be awesome if you go in there and you clean it up.
He's not watching.
But this is never going to work, man. This is never good. That was kind of the buzz
You're like,
around
"Good
town. It's
luck."
like, they can't possibly make money throwing footballs at bowling pins. And then, talking with him, working with him through the whole opening, making sure all his dots and T's and everything was all done and his inspections passed. And so he called me a lot and he went through me to the building department. And so we kind of became just, casual buddies. And the night that their business license was official, I remember I went to movie night at the library, and my friend and I go, you know what? I can go to City Hall and get the business license for the Foaling Warehouse. They're open.
Stop by and drop it off.
Yeah, so I'll stop by and drop it off. So I buzz in, and they're like stocking up the coolers, and Chris is like, well, we're legal now. We have a liquor license. Do you want to buy a beer? Like, what's the coldest beer you have? He goes, we put in the Blatz 15 minutes ago. That's the coldest beer we have. So Renee and I open up 2 Blatz beers, and now we keep those caps together, taped together, and we go back on their anniversary every year because we're the first $2 spent at the
Sentimental
Foaling Warehouse.
site.
So, and from then, I've become good friends with Chris. I actually went down to the Indy 500 this year and competed in the Super Fold Saturday, and just went down to Knoxville, Tennessee, hung out with some people I met at the Indy 500 through Chris, the Tennessee Shuffle guys.
Great.
So it's been a great relationship for the city of Hamtramck. Chris and his wife Noni are 100% dedicated to Hamtramck, participating in any Hamtramck events. They sponsor the festivals. They compete in our canoe races during a festival weekend. We'll get into the festivals later. But they're just anything they can do to help out in town. They do, and we love having them. It's great.
I did go to the Polish festival, this Labor Day festival,
Yeah.
which is
The Labor-Free Labor Day Festival.
Yes, it was very fun.
What about when Detroit City football came to Hamtramck? How exciting was that?
Well, that was very exciting. Having had a relationship with one of the owners previously, and he'd mentioned things in passing like, how's that Cppwtts Stadium? And I'm like,
Really?
Yes. And then not knowing what that soccer team was going to turn into. I mean, I went to their first game in 2012 when there was, a few hundred of us in the crowd at Cass Tech and thought it was fun, but we'll see if this works. These guys aren't getting paid. It's MPSL. There's no sponsorship. Let's see what happens. And to watch it grow the way it did, grassroots wise, and being a part of it, and then having it land, literally 6 blocks from my house in Hamtramck is just fantastic. And to have, between 5,000 and 7,000, sometimes 8,000 people flood Hamtramck, 16, 11 times a year. 16 we had playoff games. It's just fantastic. And more people are introduced. I remember that first year, and was in Hamtramck, everybody went right to Foaling, parked, walked to the game, and walked back to Foaling, and dealt with all the traffic and that. The second year, they're like, oh, well, we can park in this part of town and walk. It's not a problem. We can walk. It's like you used to walk to Old Tiger Stadium. You can park in this part, over by this bar.
In
over
large
by,
groups, we can
Yes.
do this together.
Oh, but you don't need large groups in Hamtramck. It's the most walkable city in it. Like Detroit's talking about walkable neighborhoods.
there's
We've
not
been
a
a
lot of
walkable
parking
neighborhood since the
spots.
20s. Well, that's why
Yeah.
Foaling Warehouse isn't as convenient. Those parking spots aren't all there. You can't fit 7,000 people in the Foaling Warehouse parking lot. So now they're parking all over town. They're filling up the local bars and restaurants before the games, walking to the stadium, going to the game, and then going back to the local bars, which they didn't as much the first season. So it's really, you can see a noticeable change in how people treated Hamtramck. They're now comfortable coming down here.
Tell
They needed
everybody
signs
what
before,
you
know?
what you carry in the parade on the way to the stadium.
I carry the Hamtramck city flag that I snag out of City Hall. I think that's kind of fun. This year, I think I only brought it out once this year, just because of logistics. But I have the flag that I found when I first got there, in a rotting in the bottom of a styrofoam Reuniti cooler in a back storeroom that I had to clean out because I need to put my election equipment somewhere. So the city manager goes,
Don't
"You
tell
clean that room
anybody
out."
I found this.
Oh no, everyone knows. I
Oh,
brag
okay.
about it because I had it restored and cleaned and
Finders
everything.
keepers.
So yes, but I bring it
Wow.
anytime anyone in the city needs it. It's in City Hall. I keep it in my But
Tell us what the Polish Art Center and the Hamtramck Polish Museum. Have you ever been there, Paula?
No,
Yeah.
no. We got to go there.
I know.
Well, it's not the Hamtramck Polish Museum. It's the
Okay.
Hamtramck Historical Museum.
Okay.
And it does encompass all the different ethnic groups that have come through town. It's, of course, there's a big, the history is the old town is with the Polish. Everyone knows they came in with the Dodge brothers, and that's where all the workers came from Eastern Europe because that was the oppressed part of Europe. That's where people wanted to get out, and they had a means to get out. So they came to the United States, and they came here for the jobs. There's no secret there. But there's a lot of Polish heritage, and then it goes into the Yemeni, and there's always that, who was the first Yemeni to come to Hamtramck? How did that start? That's kind of strange. How did that start? And where did the first Bengali come to Hamtramck? I don't know.
Is only one Yemeni a Yemeni?
I'm not even going to go there. I have no idea. That might be two,
There's
right?
two Yemenis.
I don't know. I'm
Yemeno.
not going to.
Okay, I'm sorry, we interrupted.
I don't
your
know, but
important-
but that's just the
Lesson.
historical museum covers a lot of the most interesting stuff is all the Prohibition era things and like where Polonia restaurant is now was the Communist Party headquarters, basically.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat. And just
Controversial.
little things like that, and the Polish Art Center has just been doing it since the 70s with amber art and all things Polish in there.
Okay. Well, Paula and I have certainly been to a lot of bars in Hamtramck, and you've been to a lot of concerts. And what are some of your favorite memories of Hamtramck, Paula?
Well, I just went to the Outer Limits Lounge, and I really like that place. That's kind of a little.
You really
out
are a rock star, aren't you? Hanging out at the Outer Limits. It's actually in Detroit.
there. Is it?
Yes, that's why it's the Outer Limits. That was the original name.
Oh,
Yeah.
bad me.
It's right. It's literally 7 feet from Hamtramck. It's
Oh,
right across.
well,
the
I
street.
parked in Hamtramck.
Yes.
I did park in Hamtramck.
Yes. They've done a wonderful
And I drank
job
in the car.
bringing that bar back. It's very cool. And
It's a cool bar. But I used to play at Paychecks and Lily's and the Hamtramck Pub, which is now gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm all about Hamtramck. And the old Campo Towers, that little burger place, isn't that a
It's
Mexican
now
place
Dos
now?
Locos Tacos. and
Dos
it
Locos
rocks.
Tacos. Excellent.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
learned Johnny B. Bedanchek and Mitch Ryder are from Hamtramck.
Are they?
Well,
I thought
Johnny B.
Detroit. I'll have to watch that
I
show
don't know.
again.
Sorry.
But I did. I did take my girls to. I think it was Under the Eagle, which is the one that's in the basement.
That's Polish
Polish
Village.
Village.
Polish Village.
Under
And
the Eagle's gone.
Yeah,
right?
it's been gone for just basically when I got there 5 years ago.
Oh.
Under the Eagle was at its last stop there.
well, we went to Polish Village, and I was asking the waitress about the duck blood soup, and she goes, "Well, would you like to try some?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll try anything." Well, I thought she was going to bring like a little,
Taste.
a shot glass of
she
duck
brings
blood
this
soup.
giant bowl. I'm like, all right, I hope I like it because I don't like to.
You didn't like
No, it's so sweet. I was not expecting that because it has a lot
because
of
I got to
fruit
put
in it.
sugar in it.
It's got fruit floating in it. It had pineapples and prunes, and it's blood.
I'm gonna have to Pinterest that.
Yeah, I took a couple bites and I said I'm really. And my daughters were like,
I stick to the dill pickle soup.
Oh,
my
and that's
favorite.
delicious.
That's my
It's
jam.
amazing.
yeah,
I agree.
But did you try the duck blood soup?
No.
But when I first
try
heard
it?
of dill pickle soup, I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is going to be great." And
I love
it.
pickles. I love it.
It's
I've
real
made it.
subtle.
Yeah,
Real
I mean,
subtle.
I'm the kind of guy, I take pickles off of cheeseburgers because I think they dominate food. I don't like pickles, but
You
I
don't
love
like
dill
it?
Oh,
pickle
I love
soup.
pickles.
Yeah. They're cucumbers soaked in evil.
Oh, I love evil. Evil's,
I love
evil's
evil.
hot.
Yeah, well,
I
evil's
like
hot.
evil.
Bad girl.
There it is.
Let's go talk about the festivals. There's
Okay.
some
I
really
know.
cool, unique
the-
festivals.
The St. Florian Strawberry Festival.
Strawberry Festival is always in May. Then there's the next one we have coming up. February will be Punchki Day.
Yeah.
We just finished the Hamtramck. I'm pointing for those of you pointing behind me.
It's
We
right,
just finished it.
Yeah.
The Hamtramck Neighborhood Arts Festival, which is kind of a strolling festival around town where bands are playing in different studios and on people's porches. And
Okay, speaking of which, Paula and I are members of the Royal Oak Optimist Club, and one of our members was telling us that he attended that and that he was lucky enough to meet the Hamtramck city clerk in someone's backyard.
That'd
And
have been my backyard
I stood
where
up
we
and
had
I
the,
said, I
beer-
know him. He's going to be on our show.
yes, so yes,
Remember?
I hosted
Yeah.
a beer garden in my backyard for the festival.
Well, how many
It was
people
free.
showed up
Had about 60 people or so come through.
in your backyard?
Yeah.
Super
Which is
fun.
right there on Eveline and Charis. It's right in the middle of the festival. It's
Was
right,
this the first year for that?
No, not the first year for the festival. First year that I've hosted it.
Okay.
But other houses in the neighborhood had just bands in their yards or bands on their front porch, or the studios would open up, or the stores would have someone playing out in front. DJs in the stores. It was
That's cool.
art exhibits opened up. It was really neat. It's very casual, very low key, and it flows well. It's there's certain things during the day and there's certain things at night. So. We were open during the day.
Sounds like you should do that a couple times a year.
I'd like to throw a beer garden party a few times
Yeah.
a year. It was enjoyable. But it's a lot of work. We put a bunch of straw down in the backyard and
I would freak out having all those strangers in my backyard.
I
That's
know,
all right.
especially if they have to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's when
fine.
you don't want them in your house.
I did go to one of those basement concerts where you sign up to see a performer, and we went to Garden City to see this performer in someone's basement, and the power was out, and we went there anyway, and it was the most amazing experience I'd ever had. It was an acoustic set by, I can't remember his name, but
That's my phone ringing in my purse. I'm sorry.
we're not
going
gonna get it.
I'm not going to answer it. So whoever it
Don't
is, sorry.
get it. So do you know the Hamtramck City motto?
the world in 2.1 square miles.
A League of Nations.
No, it's not anymore. It's the world
They
in
changed
2.1
it?
square miles. Yeah.
So it
It's
is
on all our
2.1?
signs.
It
Yes.
is 2.1
square miles. Yep.
It's a perfect square.
Oh my God.
Not a perfect
Good
square.
thing you're
There's
so
a couple
smart.
right angles. There's a couple sharp angles on it. But it's not a perfect square.
So how hard was it for people to get used to hearing the call for prayer?
That's a question for 2007 or whenever that was passed. 2007,
No one cares anymore,
2011.
right? You don't even notice it.
Only a few new residents that move in close to one of the mosques and then says, this is going on. I find it charming myself. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of a neat, eclectic thing to have.
Yeah.
Some days you hear it, some days you don't. We've had issues where it's like, hey, you left the microphone on, and you went through your whole.
Afterwards, you
Yes,
could
you
hear
went through your
people
whole.
talking.
Yes, and that has happened. Certain holidays they'll turn it up a little louder, and everyone kind of gets it. No one has a problem with that. It's a big non-issue to regular Hamtramck residents. It does get politicized in local election years. Someone will say, "Oh, the city's going to take it away," and then everyone gets all fired up and they start coming to rallies and they all show up. But no one's ever talked about taking it away. I mean, you can't take it away, and they're not taking that away. It's part of the culture. If everyone in town was some other religion where they hit a gong at noon every day, you'd hit a gong at noon every day. We'd hear it. It doesn't matter. It's just that's
So-
part of that's what we do.
Hamtramck must suffer from this as well. Royal Oak, most of the residents are happy and love living there. One person causes a stink, and then it's on the news. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what? You don't even live here. Stay out of our news,
That's just like I play at the zoo and on the Wednesday night concerts, and they're really funny about the decibels and how loud it is now.
Yeah.
It'll be one resident.
It was
that-
one resident complained. They
Yeah.
have moved the stage. They have this security guy come with this decibel reader and turn down a little bit.
Well, we even time the Labor Day festival around Call to Prayer so that we're not jamming on the stages during the Call to Prayer. We stop
that's
right
when
in
the breaks are.
Yeah, that's when the breaks are between the bands.
That is
And
very
it
nice.
works out just fine. I mean, no one really notices. It's
Right.
just
You just tell people
we
and they
do
say,
it,
okay.
and we talk to the folks at the mosques, and they're like, "Yeah, cool, thank you, we appreciate it."
One
And
of my
it's-
favorite activities, and I don't know if you guys do it every year, is the mass at the Polish Fest or the Labor Day Festival on
I
Sunday.
haven't
at
done
noon.
it in years.
Oh my God,
The
Big
Polish
Daddy
Mass.
Lakowski did
Yeah,
it,
they haven't done the Polish Mass in a long time.
and it was like beer drinking and praying and
It was neat. We
accordions.
talked about I'm also on that committee. I've been involved with the festival since around 2001 or so, long before I was a clerk. And I've been advocating the last couple of years with the current chairman about bringing back either the Polish Mass or at least having some polka action during that parade, when the parade ends, when people are kind of flowing into the festival grounds. At least have some polka music. Maybe someone will stick around and dance. And But those acts are really expensive,
Yeah,
especially
I know.
because they think they got you because it's like you need a Polish act. There's nothing else can do, so
know.
it's going to cost you
around a
$800
Polish
for
holiday time of year.
Right.
What are some other festivals we didn't talk about? Because there's a couple more.
The Hamtramck Music Festival, which took the place, not didn't take the place of it.
Oh,
It
yeah.
blew
in
the
March.
blowout out of the water. So it's fantastic. It's like $10.
How is it different than
That's
the blowout?
different than the
The
blowout?
blowout was $25 a ticket.
Oh.
You could maybe see your friends for a little while, and it was just.
Is
it
that
was-
still happening?
No,
the blowout?
Would also make the bars had to buy so many cases of a certain kind of beer and then carry like Tuwaka or some kind of crazy booze, and you had to pay for your own sound equipment people.
Was it the
and-
sponsors you're saying?
Yeah, they would make
Yeah.
you buy like all this shock top and stuff. Like the Hamtramck Music Festival just says, look, we'll supply you a sound guy, we'll book the venue for you, just have someone there checking IDs. And for $10, you can get on a bus. Smart, they partner with Smart, the local transportation, and they take
that's
people back and
perfect.
forth. They do that for free as part of their community outreach programs. And they had a great relationship with Melissa Hightower from Smart, hooked that all up. And
because the
they're
other
they're
festival,
wonderful.
they had to have a shuttle, and that wasn't
They had
free.
shuttles, but that was part of the
Yeah.
$25 you were paying to get around, and they just didn't work on that stuff. And then that last year, what did the blowout in was when they moved it to Ferndale and Detroit, and then they had only like 5 venues in Hamtramck. And so it was no longer this little walkable, you can hit 7 bars and on foot. And so they kind of bailed on it.
Stuff's
So.
just like Daly in the Alley. I've been going to that forever. And I remember when it was just in the alley. Have you ever been to that?
I've been to Daly a few times, yes.
And now it's Daly. It's not an alley anymore. It's about 7 streets.
Yeah,
more.
it's been about 3 years. I usually go up to Marquette now that weekend for the,
Oh, yeah,
the Upper
Marquette
Peninsula Beer Festival.
So much fun.
So, yeah.
Well, what about foreign languages? You
The
Yeah, how
last
many
I
do you
heard,
speak?
Communicating?
I speak English, Canadian, just English.
Pig Latin.
Yes, like I said.
Sesame Street
We-
Mexican.
We do have. I hire
Spanish,
translators for like tonight. When I leave here, I have an election training back in Hamtramck, and I have election inspectors that speak Arabic, Bengali, Polish, and Albanian. And I think I have a Bosnian translator this year too. I'm looking for a Ukrainian translator, so if someone wants to come work.
Oh.
We'll
Get the word out.
Yeah.
The Arabic
a
and
lot of our
Bengali gets
viewers
used a
are
lot.
Ukrainian.
Well, we still have
all
the,
12.
the original Immaculate Conception school, Ukrainian school, is down in Hamtramck still. They were not the school. The original school and church is down there. It all moved to Warren later on, but it has a Ukrainian tradition down there. The Ukrainian Museum is right across the street from the Hamtramck Historical Museum.
I did something really cool this weekend that made me Hamtramck could start something like this. I went to St. Anne's. Did I tell you about this?
Yep.
After Dark tour. St. Anne's is like the oldest Roman Catholic church, second oldest, I don't know what the first is, in the country. And the building is from 1886. And they had a tour at night with all the lights out, and you could bring flashlights. We went up into the attic of the
St. Anne
church.
where?
Down by the Ambassador Bridge.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of like the St. Anne Sausage Fest in Warren.
Oh.
But,
There's some
I've
old
played at that.
churches.
Yeah.
I wonder if.
But it was really cool
great.
to do it at night. And, just you looked at everything in a different way.
Hey, they got to do something to put some butts in the seats in Catholic churches these days. Whatever brings them out, right?
Well, I decided I would like to go to a mass there just to see it during the day
Yeah,
because I
that'd be
saw it with
great.
the flashlight.
The one thing they did do was the mass mob they would do where they would
Yes.
get people to go to different historic churches, and they used St. Florian was one of those, and it's great. People come down and they're like, man, this is one beautiful piece of architecture.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Well, that's what we were talking about with our friends is going maybe once a month to a different church, historical church. They do mass in Spanish there. So maybe we'll go to that one. And then go
talk
get
about
tacos.
the Kowalski Sausage Company. They're still big in Hamtramck, no?
They're a big
Kowalski?
company in Hamtramck.
Okay, they're not.
They don't make them there anymore?
They make them there.
Oh.
Sure. They don't participate in the festivals or things like that like they used to.
Dudek does.
Dudek is gone.
Oh,
Dudek's been gone for a while.
I better
Schrodecks
research
are very
my
active.
guess.
The Schrodeck family and Schrodeck
Okay.
Sausage, they're very active. They sponsor everything, soccer teams and all kinds of stuff around town. But yeah, there's no Dudek is no longer there.
I thought I
Bojak's
had
Market is there. Schrodeck's Market is there.
I thought I had a Dudek pierogi at Labor Day Weekend Fest. Maybe it wasn't. I had a good pierogi, man. The pierogi
There's no shortage of that in Hamtramck.
It's
There
so
isn't.
yummy.
So you clearly love living in Hamtramck. What would you say to other people to convince them that it's a great place to move?
if you want a walkable community where, like, literally I can walk out of my house and I can go to grab fresh vegetables, get fresh cut meat, grab, a pair of shoes, and then catch live music on the way home, you can do that in Hamtramck, and it's going to be within, like, over 2.1 square miles. We have our own police department, our own fire department, our own mayor, our own clerk. The biggest misconception was, Hamtramck, we're not Detroit. And it wasn't like a bad thing. We weren't saying, we're better than, we're our own community. And people thought of it as just a neighborhood, or they didn't realize it was completely surrounded by Detroit. With one little part on the freeway that's connected to Highland Park, but whatever. But we are our own community, and it's very different than anything else around it.
It really is.
Part of Hamtramck does bleed into Bangor over there in Detroit, which is another very cool ethnic neighborhood. They just did a big mural release, and the food is great. The people are very nice, very active. They're getting very politically active now and organizing in the second generation to come through. But otherwise, we're very unique, and we have our neighborhoods and our active neighborhood groups, and it's a blast. It's a lot of fun to live there.
Yeah, and if you want to venture out for some good eats and get all these different ethnicities, I think that's a great destination.
And people are calling me about liquor licenses all the time. We have another new bar opening up in 2 weeks called the High Dive. A world famous artist from L.A., a muralist named Sharktooth, bought this place and redesigned a bar that was a dump, and he took it over and he bought it sight unseen from L.A.
Wow.
And totally redid the bar. So that opens up on the 27th. We have another place called Bar Tar, which is going to open up probably early next year, that already has their liquor license transferred. We have a place from downtown. Remember the Works, the legendary Works bar? It was kind of a after-hours, late-night thing in Corktown. They're moving into Hamtramck as well.
Great.
So there's stuff coming fast and furious.
Sounds like it's the place to be. We should
think it is.
Chatty Patty Live
Yeah,
there.
we need to hang out there more often.
Well, you can do Chatty Patty Live from the Whiskey in the Jar,
Yeah,
from my side hustle.
That's another thing I want to talk about. You're a bartender at Whiskey in the Jar, right?
Yes, I've been doing that for, I think it'll be like 13 or 14 years now.
Wow.
When you work in politics, you never knew when your boss was going to, either not get elected or something was going to happen. So I always held on to my side gig, and I went from doing a lot of consulting and working for state senators and state representatives and things like that, and then bartending a couple nights a week, to now I just held on to my Fridays.
What's the history of the whiskey?
Whiskey's been around. We know it's been built onto 3 times. It was called Mr. Joe's until sometime in the late 90s. We traced it back to the 1920s to when it was built. You can see, if you've been in there, you can see where it obviously was added on to a couple of times. Our mascot is the rattleope that was caught in the back during the Great Garbage Strike. They caught a rat in the back, and they stuffed him and put him up on the wall. So we have a rattleope as a mascot.
As a sign to all the other rattlelopes to
8
stay
bar
away.
stools, a pool table, and a lot of characters in that bar. So it's great. And
we should go on a
I took my
Friday.
mom there, and she was running around cheering on U of M, talking to strangers.
The one time I wasn't in town, I
I
had to be
know.
out of town, and you brought the family into whiskey. But you also came in to watch curling with me once.
Oh,
that was
yeah,
fun.
that was late. We watched
was
the
late.
Olympics. Like, it came on at like 2 a.m. or something. We were there really late. It
So-
was a lot of fun.
Would you ever want to run for mayor of Hamtramck?
I have a better job. I get paid more than the mayor.
Oh.
But
Hey.
but no, it has crossed my mind. People say, you're not going to be clerk forever. When are you going to go, do something in the private sector and make some money or something? I'm like, I really enjoy public service. If I did leave and do something in the private sector, like government relations or something like that, I would entertain the idea of running for office. Maybe in Hamtramck. Maybe I won't go back to St. Croix Shores, where I lived for a long time, and do it there. I don't know. I like it in Hamtramck. I like where I'm at. I like
And
the
you're going to
people.
stay there for a while.
I plan on staying there for a while. I have no plans to leave.
That's great.
So do you own a home there?
I don't. Not yet. Right now, the real estate's skyrocketing in Hamtramck.
Really?
Yes. I should have bought a house 5 years
Wow.
ago when I got there.
Who knew?
They're like, houses that were going for $40,000 are going for $116,000, $120,000 now.
That's like Hazel Park is.
5 years, 6 years.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks again for watching another episode of the Chatty Patty
Paula Walla
Talk Show.
Thanks, ladies. Wonderful being here.
Hello, hello, hello. It's the Chatty Patty Paula Talk Show. Hello, hello, hello. It's the Chatty Patty Paula Talk
We
Show.
will talk about the things that mean so much to you, like going to a restaurant or hanging at the zoo, clothes and sports and funny news, crafts and travel too. Nothing ever scripted, so expect the unexpected.
Hello, hello, hello. It's the Chatty Patty Paula Talk Show. It's the Chatty Patty Paula Talk Show. It's the Chatty